Okay, so I was trying to do some math, so I didn't think they were full on for the economy.
Yeah. Yeah.
With chronic running nose, it just comes to deafening.
Somebody walks up. Successfully.
I don't like flipping through other papers, that's why I wanted to.
There you go.
I don't want to read that. That's what it is.
Yeah.
After the new year, just to share from us. I am not in a relationship.
You look like a presentation.
I don't even get an acknowledgement. Lucy, you just walk right by me. You just walk right by me. I have but I'm gonna hide. I was like, how Lucy? You just ignore me. I get when we have a crowd.
Amy, was it?
Makes me feel important.
Depends on who's in the crowd.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
I'm curious. So this, yeah, I can log into my.
Well, then just try to have to rehome it someone.
Yeah, I was wanting to know where to start on that.
It's not recognized. Don't worry, I'll tell you how long it's here. Wi-Fi here.
That would be the end of it. Yeah. I would think it
I
was.
figured out.
Sort of
We make those slap up.
general areas of
Yeah. Recognize even count. Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's a big change, right? So there's an organization change there. How are people today?
In case you're interested, here's the time.
That's what there's.
Yeah.
The actual.
I'm gonna ask her the flowers. Looks like it's better than it was, but.
It'll be- so that's in January, I'll be listening to the, well,
Oh,
I'll
wonderful.
wait to see the
Okay.
proposal.
Our
Maybe it's
special-
your birthday and I forgot.
And then his.
So projects, there's like the top three. The site,
It's step back.
but I'll always put it in.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Right.
All righty. So you got
Sorry, we didn't hear. Don't mind me. Don't mind me.
Okay.
Well, I just was with my sister doing this.
I don't think I've ever tasted anything from Starbucks that I don't like.
I forgot their.
Especially the food, you know. Drinks. I actually, I think I got used to their flavors, so I like their coffee, but a lot of people don't. But their breakfast sandwiches, bacon Gouda, yes, they are. Sweet butter should not their school. Or they should. Right, we good?
Sisters on the person.
Rob forgot, so he's gonna be late. I'm not gonna wait for him. I mean, we don't live, he lives like across the street from me, so I know he doesn't live close, but. Rob. Oh, there's more. Yeah.
I can't share. You find it when you have a face, a smile, that you actually smile, oh, they come across.
Good, okay. All right, we're gonna get this meeting started. Welcome to the Malala River School District, December 12th business meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's good to have a
Yes.
room full of people tonight. First up, we have a special recognition to present to Mackenzie Burrell. She was awarded the honorary national FFA degree. And I wasn't familiar with that, so I looked it up, and sounds like only 1% of FFA members are awarded with that. So that's a huge accomplishment. And we just want to appreciate all the hard work, dedication, and service hours you put into the Malala FFA. And in a town such as Malala, where ag is important and relevant, we're just honored to recognize you for this. And nice to see you. You have great representation with you.
Janelle did this.
I like her.
Just here to embarrass her.
And we have, Tony, you want to take it away from here?
Things I think Chair McNeil said it perfectly, but I did ask for just a moment to speak about Mackenzie's work in the district. I've been in the district 13 years, and I think it was my 12th year that Mackenzie sent me an email and invited me to attend the National FFA convention with her and the team that was going there to compete. And I knew of the work of FFA from a distance. I'd never been directly connected. I was a middle school principal. I knew of the work, but I didn't know it personally. And I thought, okay, this would be great to see what our kids are doing. And I've only once in my life, in my professional life, that I can think of, been in a spot where I was absolutely blown away. I was speechless with the quality of leadership that's developed nationally through FFA, the quality of leadership that affects the way our country operates. The future leaders of our country oftentimes are sitting in blue jackets, just like these young people are. And to be able to watch Mackenzie and the gifts that she has in developing leaders and growing leaders, it's been a blessing to watch what she does with kids every year. She is in addition to the lead with these great kids, she's also the leadership teacher who coordinates the ASB leadership every year in the work that they do year round, and in particular, the work of Share the Love. Her leadership as a member of that Share the Love board and as a teacher in our community just has really helped shape Malala in ways that most people don't know, right? And it's a humble leader that does that work. The person in the arena that does that work and gets in there and gets dirty doing the meaningful work that it's a special moment to appreciate her. I know that the last place she wanted to be was in the limelight, because that's who she is, right? She's a humble, altruistic leader. And the young man who submitted the nomination, Mr. Nelzine, gave us a copy of his nomination. And I thought, how better to have that read than his aunt, Lori Nelzine, read that nomination. So
Yeah, I had reached out to Dale and hoped he could be here tonight, but he's in Harrisburg. So he sent me this to read tonight. On April 13th, 2024, Mackenzie Burrell was nominated to receive her honorary American FFA degree. By a unanimous vote, the Oregon FFA Executive Board passed this nomination as well as 2 additional nominees. Later, Ms. Burrell traveled to Indianapolis, Indiana to receive this award on October 25th, 2024. As stated within the National FFA website, individuals who have provided exceptional service on a national level to agriculture education, or FFA, are eligible for the honorary American FFA degree. Additionally, teachers who have created high-quality agricultural education programs which inspire and motivate their students to strive for success are eligible. Nominations are first submitted to the individual's state FFA association for approval. As a state association, we believe that Mackenzie Borough exceeds all of the requirements to achieve such a degree, all of which can be found, and he included the link. As state president, I personally cannot nominate Ms. Burrell as I sit as the chair on the board. However, this request was relayed to Kay Jones, the current president of the Mount Hood FFA district. As president, Kay has the ability to make nominations as well as vote. Previously in the year, Ms. Burrell had spoke about wanting to achieve this very degree. So I thought to myself, let's make that happen. Ms. Burrell has played a key role in many young, many young agriculturists' lives. Ms. Burrell started her career as an ag educator over 20 years ago when she was hired at Willamina High School. A few short years later, Ms. Burrell was hired at Molalla High School, where she would continue to make an impact. Ms. Burrell is continuously dedicated to the FFA program at Molalla, pushing members in the chapter further than what they believe they can accomplish. Ms. Burrell has led many teams to state as well as nationals, with myself being on the state winning and top 16th team within the nation's FFA Agricultural Issues Forum. Throughout the years, Ms. Burrell has cultivated numerous state officers out of the Molalla program as well. In summary, Ms. Burrell's service to the FFA and Molalla High School has gone above and beyond. She is to the utmost deserving of such an honor. Please join me in congratulating Mackenzie Burrell on such an accomplishment.
Like to say anything, and there's no expectation you do.
No. No, I appreciate it. It's been a great 18 years so far in Wallace, so thank you so much. Okay. All right.
You've got a couple. You've got you've got a couple guests with you, and your mom is here. Am I right?
Yeah.
Mothers deserve to take credit in part for the human beings that they grow. So thank you very much for giving us an opportunity to work with your daughter. And family friend Lois and I were having a conversation beforehand, and Lois was sharing with me just a story about she used to help in the judging and connect with the kids. And she said the work that happens in Molalla High School and with these kids, with these teachers, gives her hope for the future. And so I asked her permission to quote her, and I just want to take that moment to do it. Thanks, Lois, for being here. Are you sure you want to say anything, Kelly?
I said I had a wonderful 18.
All right.
No, I do appreciate it, and when Tony went back to national, we had a good time. I think we tried to catch a turkey on the side of the road. Yeah. Anyways, another story.
What about a picture of her receiving her flowers?
Yeah, how about,
And her family,
How
just
about-
about it.
No.
Can you get your phone and take a
take
picture?
a picture maybe with the board?
No.
Oh, yeah, go on up there. Yeah.
We have all the kids.
Oh,
Yes,
that's
just
more-
kind of line up,
Back.
yeah, right there, and then have her in front and just take a really good picture.
I think. You guys don't.
Where are we going?
Where are we?
Just trying to figure out.
We're back. All right, we're good.
Okay, all right. I'm a tree.
We're coming.
All
We'll
right.
come right here.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay. Oh, this is-
I'll stand at the back.
Yeah.
Carol.
There's some fair.
Yeah. Okay, okay. That's how it's Should we go together?
That's
perfect.
Run
Well, sure, yeah, there's a seat up here for that. Okay. Now there's seat up here for
Got enough pictures?
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, right.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, okay, we're all in.
Okay, next up, we have public comment. Do we have any public comment tonight, Lori? Moving on, we have consider changes to the agenda. Anybody? Okay, moving on. Student board representative report with Madison.
Okay, sorry for missing last month. I wasn't last week's. But that was the night before our first opening night for Mean Girls. So unfortunately, as I was the lead, I couldn't skip out on that night. So I'm gonna present some things. So starting off with Mean Girls, I hope some of you guys got to go see it. In total, everyone had a lot of fun. Theater itself, we raised just over $3,000 that will help go towards anyone who is a thespian, and it goes towards their admittance to go into state for thespian competitions. Those are soon, so that's why Mean Girls was a nice also fundraising opportunity for us. But it was really fun to be in it. It was my first musical ever, and I suggest going to see one in the future if you guys can, musical or just anything put on by Malala. They are planning on putting on another one next year. They won't tell me what it is, sadly, but you'll get to know. Back on to more school things. We are officially started in our second trimester. So everyone has new schedules, new things. We are now officially in winter, if you can't tell by how cold it is outside. So with that, before school started, leadership snuck in the school and we decorated the whole commons. Everywhere you look, there is snowflakes all around. If you can, I suggest going to look at it. There's about 400 snowflakes around the school. There's a bunch hanging off the ceiling tiles. They're all over the walls, all over the windows. Even just the front doors of the school have gingerbread houses painted on them. It's really nice and festive in there, so I hope you guys get a chance to go see it. Choir just had our concert on the 10th, so 2 days ago. That went really well. We also had a little raffle fundraiser where we raised $400 for ourselves to go on our first tour ever since Mr. Friesen left. So we are going on a tour throughout San Francisco, and we're just singing. We're doing like a little caroling tour, so it's going to be quite fun. We had different sports starting, so we had wrestling. They're having very late practices. I have a friend who complains to me all the time. And basketball, they're practicing, but also they're winning so far a lot of their games, girls and boys basketball. They had one just last weekend where I think girls, JV, and varsity, they won all of their games. And then the boys, JV2 and JV won their game. Sorry if that's not correct. I know they won a lot of games. I was busy working that night, so I couldn't unfortunately see it. But no, spirit is very holiday festive over there. And then everyone's slowly winding down as everyone gets emotionally ready for winter break. Thinking a little too far ahead there. But yeah, everything's just really festive and everyone's like getting excited. The first day back at school was like everyone's emotions were like high. They like missed each other from Thanksgiving break. So everything's starting to slowly wind down and then getting back up emotionally. But yeah, it's been a really good feeling at the school so far. So yeah.
Very nice.
So any questions?
Oh,
Not really much to question about.
thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
All right, up next we have the consent agenda, which
Madam-
covers the November meeting minutes, and the personnel report.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I've got a family member listed in the personnel report, so I'll abstain.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor of approving the consent agenda? Raise your right hand. Okay. Motion passes. Next up, we have recommendation for approval for a job description of Assistant Superintendent / Director of Human Services.
I'll move to approve the job description
Did you want to say something before?
for assistant superintendent. I should finish it.
At your pleasure, I can speak to it
Go ahead.
beforehand or after the board discussion of the motion.
Okay.
Go ahead and
it's been-
speak to it now.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
speak to it now, please.
Yeah.
Chair McNeil, directors, the job description that's presented to you this evening is really part of some strategic organization of district office staffing. I'm not talking about adding any new FTE to our budget, but rather being clear about a couple of things first, to ensure a clear line of delegation from my office to the assistant superintendent director, or excuse me, the assistant I'll get this clear, it's a new position. For the assistant superintendent, both for policy delegation, right? There are many policies that allow me or authorize me to delegate specific responsibilities to an individual. In this case, that clear line, I think, helps patrons and employees understand who is that person that would be delegated to. I also am clear that there are times when I'm not in the district and patrons deserve an opportunity to know who is the person in charge. There was a period of time when Director Ellis in her HR director role filled in arguably for many of the responsibilities that I held as superintendent when I was out on medical leave. Again, creating continuity for the organization. The work of the licensure associated with this is licensure that Director Ellis has recently earned the capacity to apply for such a license with the state, having finished her program at the University of Oregon to allow for this licensure. The assistant superintendent is not part of the administrator group, but has a singular contract with the district. In this case, we're not talking about a large shift, but an appropriate shift to a compensation that would look commensurate with the high school principal. And I would be bringing that contract back to the board at your next meeting to consider. Again, this is in part about the organizational structure and the decision to create that direct line of authority, but also to increase capacity in the organization, right? So in this case as well, Director Ellis would be able to take on additional supervisory responsibilities with supervisors, for example. So increasing capacity in the organization while we have at this moment in time, I'll speak to my office, but we also have another administrator right now who's spending arguably half of their time getting ready to build a new middle school, right? And so my office benefits from the support of other administrators. In this case, again, that clear line of authority, I think, is good for the organization. Really similar to the structure that Gladstone and other districts our size have. And again, this is no additional FTE in the district, and certainly open for discussion on the job description. And I appreciate your consideration of it.
And for point of clarification, what you're asking us to do here tonight is simply to approve the job description with an eye toward making that person officially, or appointing that person officially to that role at a future meeting.
With a contract and an appointment that I would bring to what I'm envisioning would be your work session next week, if this matches the board's pleasure.
I'd like to say something. I think that Ms. Ellis has really shown that she is capable of taking this particular job, especially with negotiations, with our union negotiations. Also, when she took on policy and she was leading us through that, she studies real hard. I mean, she does the job and she's got it on cue. I've never seen anybody so expert and so detailed in everything that she takes on. So she is the perfect choice. I can't even think of anybody else to be your assistant supervisor.
Yeah. And again, that would be my assessment as well.
Yeah.
We're not looking to post this position. I don't believe we would find a qualified candidate outside the organization. I believe we have the right person here without increasing FTE. But again, I recognize fully that the board issues contracts. So I would bring that to the board next week.
Any other questions?
Under requirements, did I hear correctly that there is a licensure requirement?
There is a licensure requirement.
Because I don't see any kind of credential requirements listed under job requirements.
As a required credential element. Interesting. If we miss that, then we need to fix that.
Unless I missed it. Usually under requirements, you'll say possess
Licensure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I'm very, very supportive of the idea.
central requirements. And I'm sure that you've read this and it's clearly overlooked on my part. So if it were the pleasure of the board to ensure that, and I would recommend we add that, that any required licensure be held by the individual at the time they're filling such a position, that we would do that following this evening's action.
So this, I could forecast, well, there'll be a day hopefully soon where we consider putting a person in this position. One question I'll say, have we checked off all the requirements for doing this? Like what are the credentials that are legal, that are a legal obligation?
So again, this would be an appointment and a legal obligation. Again, in terms of licensure, I've already vetted that, but I'm embarrassed that it wasn't part of the job description. It should have really been there.
Thank you.
I agree with Linda. I think Miss Ellis is a good choice for this position. And I think all of us have the confidence backing her to do so. And it would alleviate some of Mr. Mann's responsibilities.
I'm
And
happy to do whatever it takes, but I will tell you the organization will benefit by having that clear.
Madam Chair, if I might, I didn't hear a second to Linda's motion, so I want to make a motion that says I move that we approve the job description with the amendment of adding the licensure requirement under the qualifications. So I think it's requirements and qualifications section.
I'll second that.
okay, the new motion of approving the job description as presented with the amendment of adding the licensure requirement. And it's been moved and seconded. And we're good? Okay, all in favor of approving that job description with the amendment, adding the licensure requirement, raise your right hand.
Thank you.
Good idea.
Okay. Next up, we have the second reading of policies. The specific policies are JHFE/GBNAB for reporting child abuse, JHFE/GBNAB-AR1, and JHFE/JBNAB-AR2, no changes for reference only. So this is the second time we're reading this, and I don't believe there were any questions during the last meeting regarding these.
I have one, if I may. I need a reminder, so policy. The reporting child abuse policy, GBNAB. I assume that it would include sexual abuse. It's included within the definition of child abuse.
Yes,
Is that? So I just, and I think you answered this last time, but I just maybe need to hear it again based on what has happened in the middle school district. There's the line on page 2-3, when there's reasonable cause to support or report a district employee suspected of abuse shall be placed on leave. I just need assurance if they're, that we're not going to repeat the mistake that other districts have about leaving somebody in a position that shouldn't be there.
yeah,
I know that's kind of a rhetorical thing, but
I appreciate you asking it here and giving me the chance just to say, we're gonna ensure that people's rights are protected, but the rights that we protect first and foremost are that of children. So this language here of shall be placed on paid administrative leave is our practice.
that was it. I'm good. I support the changes. So I'll make a motion, Madam Chair, that we approve policies as stated, GBNAB, along with AR1 and AR2.
They moved,
I'll second that.
moved and seconded. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor of adopting the policies as stated, as presented, raise your right hand. Okay, motion passes. Next up, we have information and discussion, and the first topic is middle school capital project update with Dr. Stewart.
Good evening.
If a short report, we are on schedule. And while we're on budget, I would warn the staff that the architects ask us to green and give us their ideal. And then we get it, and then we should compare that to our budget estimate, and we have to go to work on making the difference in the budget, so that time will come. We had a good meeting with the city yesterday, that included the fire department, PG, and the county. And they were very accommodating with the idea that their development code does not accommodate schools. And so they understood that, we'll be coming in for some variances, and they completely understood and anticipate that happening.
Yeah, sorry, can you say that one more time?
There-
Whose development code does not
The
include? schools?
city's development code
Okay.
is not accommodating schools.
Okay, so that's gonna get them built up as we do this project.
Say it again.
The city's standards will be updated to include school departments.
No, probably not. It will, they'll work us through a aspect of variances to their development code.
I see what you're saying.
Commercial.
Okay,
Commercial use. And they shared with us their aspirations of what they'd like for the district to build for streets and infrastructure all around the school. And that will then be coupled with a traffic impact analysis to see what proportional share we really need to do for their infrastructure around the school. So that's a process we'll be going through then to say, navigate how much impact is the school are going to have, additional impact on the school have. Just like we would replace the school.
so if we have a 10% impact on, that's 10% of a $10 million project, we could get all $1 million from infrastructure.
It's probably not perfect math like that, but it's that idea that. You know, if we add 150 students, is that really gonna cause a failed intersection, or is that gonna? What's that mean?
Okay.
For sure, we anticipated there will be sidewalks and streets and some infrastructure in the streets as well. We anticipated that.
And
Maybe not as much as they got, well, but
yeah, and safe crosswalks.
they definitely, everyone wants that.
Okay.
From the school. Also yesterday, we received 9 proposals from contractors, which is very unusual to have that many contractors propose on the middle school. So it's a good time to be going out for proposals, we're at the bids and subcontractors. So we'll be looking at proposals on Monday. We have a couple of people on the board that are doing that. And then on Thursday, we'll be interviewing the finalists for that. So it's moving pretty quickly. Andrea's doing a great job getting the community and community engagement. She'll report on that. In addition to the staff, in middle school staff, leads and department leads, we met with them and got their input. And today we also met with the entire staff, almost 2 hours, and they really had a lot of input, great input, and great questions on many, many details. And that will be the last time we meet with them, or the last time we have input, but very helpful, very informative. That's the update. Questions?
This would be odd,
Go ahead.
odd question. Does part of the proposal include security? I'm envisioning a half-built building that's could be susceptible to vandalism and theft. Is there a thought of putting cameras around, not only so we can watch that, but maybe so we can see it while it's being built?
Absolutely.
Both, okay.
First, I think the insurance requires cameras because it has the past projects. And then the second, it'd be great to have a time lapse of the construction.
Yeah, I think the city's doing that with the police station.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Exciting news. Okay, next up, we have elementary school capacity discussion with Dr. Mann and Dr. Stewart.
Yeah, I think Dr. Stewart might rejoin us up here too, but to set the table, the board may recall that back in 2014, our facility, long range facility plan included some enrollment data about our district at that time and our projected enrollment. The data from PSU at the time as the demographer said that we'd be growing at X%, and time our enrollment at the middle school capacity was projected to be 800. At the elementary schools, you'll recall that the capacity of each elementary schools at the time was arguably, I think the mantra at the time was there's no more room left at the inn. And we have not grown as a community at the rate that PSU might have projected, specifically at K-5. So part of our work in the not too distant future is to engage in another demographic study, but in the short term, we're really looking at increased residents in the city, both in terms of projected developments, as well as a discussion that's happening at the city around expansion of the urban growth boundary. So we're expecting that what PSU might have projected, even though we be behind the timeline, eventually is going to happen. We're going to have more elementary school students, and appreciate Dr. Stewart really helping us see that we need to get out ahead of the curve on that and do some work to analyze what would be our possible pathways forward to address capacity issues. Do we have capacity issues? Well, I'll tell you, Mr. Conley's been talking with me for probably 3 or 4 years, saying we're all full at the end. There's no more room left at Rosedale Elementary School, and there really isn't. As a K-8 elementary school, there are spaces that used to be used as part of the middle school, grades 7 and 8 athletic program, and there were locker rooms in the elementary schools at K-8 locker rooms. We've converted those to instructional spaces, right? So we have reading groups happening in those spaces that used to be, shower areas, just because we're maximizing, right? I think we're being good stewards of the resource, but there is no more room at Rosedale. Depending on the creative use of space, we might arguably be at the same place at both Paul Elementary School and Clark's Elementary School. Malino currently has some additional space, but after setting all that on the table for us to consider, really the question that Dr. Stewart helped me see is, how are we going to resolve this? If more kids are moving in, what are our options? And he proposed a process that I might look to, if I may, Ron, to speak to, that we've begun to engage our elementary principals in as well. That includes considerations of satellite campus. Right? We use part of the district office to serve elementary school students someday down the road. Modular classrooms, might we need modular classrooms at one of our schools? Might we want to think about boundary adjustments? Those are all big conversations that would happen down the road. But if we aren't prepared for it now, right, we'll get behind the curve. So Ron's helping facilitate the process. We consider the pros and the cons and each of the considerations from all perspectives, the perspectives of employees, perspective of parents, perspective of children. What would a boundary change experience look like for all those stakeholders? What about, anyway, I can go down all the hypothetical roads of how to solve the challenge of running out of elementary school space, but I just wanted the board to be aware that we're getting into that process. We're putting all the data into a document, and we're envisioning convening an advisory group of parents and community members to look at the data that we've collected, to look at the issues that are present and the possible solutions. And that advisory that would include parents would eventually, advise my office, and we'd bring to the board, some recommendations. So how quickly are we going to move? We're going to move quickly in our analysis. We're going to move quickly in engaging parents in the process. I'm visualizing that timeline to be later this year. I'm not projecting that we're going to do anything in the fall of 25, 9 months from now. Again, we're trying to be out ahead of the curve. Yeah, enough of my rambling. Ron, is there any piece of that I've missed or that you'd want to add? Ron, again, we're fortunate to have his expertise. He's supported districts in this exact same conversation, just like he supported districts in facility development across his career. So.
No, I just appreciate starting now, because it takes almost years to get planning, then make a decision, then you're going to get modulars, 4 years to get modulars. That's yeah.
We'd be glad to answer questions you might have.
We've been talking a lot about elementary school. Where are we at with that same issue with the high school?
Our high school at this moment in time has, I couldn't tell you exactly what the number is for capacity that was built for. Lori probably knows it off the top of her head. 11. Yeah. 1,100 students could fit. Now that would be an absolutely jam-packed high school.
Yeah.
But could it happen? It could happen. Right now, we're about 7:30.
Oh, okay, so we've got plenty of room there for a while. Okay. We've been talking about all the others, so I was just kind of curious about the high school
Thank
too.
you. And don't get me wrong, yeah, Dr. Atherton, we're not gonna have 1,100 kids at the high, because that would be an entirely different kind of environment to be operating.
I appreciate looking ahead to anticipate stuff that's coming down the road. But I'll be curious as to how big of a problem will we have September for next school year. So if we're at capacity now, and we get 5% more students, what would that mean? So maybe some sort of an impact statement on that. I'm not sure how else to ask that, and how big of a problem is that going to be?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing in your question there is if we had to go to a short-term nimble solution because 40 more children enrolled at Realdale Elementary School next fall, what would we do? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, I understand that you're trying to get maybe extra capacity through modulars and whatnot, further down the road, but we do have a potential problem coming in September. Is there a way to forecast that?
Yeah, we'll go through the enrollment projections process that we have here in the financial modeling.
Okay.
At budget season, we'll have some more data then. We'll also, I'm thinking that our new demographic study data might actually be hot off the press for us at that time.
That's April, May.
March.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
And sorry, you're coming back in either February or March with your preliminary findings, right?
We will have the demographic data in about March from the firm that we're using. The recommendations on how to approach elementary capacity, is that what you're speaking to?
No, it says, you'll report to the board, yeah, just with like your preliminary findings. So
Yes,
maybe like even March or April.
yes.
Good to know. Thank you. Okay, next up we have communications report. Mrs. Watson.
Good evening. Chair, Vice Chair, and board. This is my 12th report to you. So it means by the next meeting, I'll have officially been here for a year.
Wow.
Yeah, it went fast, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Especially those first 6 months. Yeah, so anyway, I just think that the big takeaway is a lot of my time right now is being spent still with bond communications, the outreach that Dr. Stewart mentioned. We're really out there trying to show people the schematics, show our parents and our staff anything that you've seen about the bond project. So we're working on that. Have a number of things from this first start of the year that are still in process or not completely done. We got the sign ordered for there, so your next meeting that should be available. Took us a little bit to whenever you get a new logo and you put it into production, the first time you start like proofing it in larger sizes, right? Because we saw it like little bitty. We noticed some things that had to be positioned, like the font was off a little bit, the spacing between them. So they had to redo those files. And so we've hit some production issues that we're working through, but we want to make sure we get those first few things correct so that we don't end up with 2 or 3 logos out there inadvertently. So we're working through that. Also working on, I'll call it award season. So nominating different staff members, but also we'll be putting in communications awards for the bond campaign and the branding guide that the district had done before it came. So those are all really good pieces of work. And so we'll be putting those in the school communications award as well as the public relations for Oregon. So hopefully we'll get some feedback at least and maybe some recognition for the work we've been doing. Working through the websites, we consider those handed off now so the schools can make changes. We're not doing regular training now, but we're doing drop-in training so they can just come in if they have something or they can call and we'll go out to the school or get on Zoom with them and help them get their websites and website changes in there. Still cleaning up the old web material that got moved over. It's like in folders and I don't know what all of it is because I wasn't here. And so kind of having to open up each one of those PDFs and see if it makes sense. And do we need to keep it or, can we get some of that downsized and cleaned up? And then also having the addition of Director Shaw and IT, I think is really making an acceleration in the communications area because a lot of our work, is digital and it relies on IT tools. And so like the ticketing system that he put in, things like that are already starting to come with his short time here is really going to help me and it's going to help our parents and our staff have a good communication channel that's doesn't have as many friction points in it. So we're working through a lot of that. We have a lot of things on the whiteboard that we're implementing. So we have additional features that came with our web platform. Molalla High School will start after the beginning of the year with the mobile app and with the rooms feature, which creates this communication hub where staff can communicate with parents, parents can communicate with staff, and staff can communicate with students. And that's all secure and there's no data problems because it's on the app. So it's not on people's regular phones, district phones or personal phones. We're also working with transportation through the finance office, and there'll be a new app for helping parents know when the school bus is getting close to their bus stop. So if there's a delay or they're coming home from a field trip, which we have some extensive trips to Crook County and things like that. So I think it'll be really nice. Parents can sign up and they can state, what they're connected to their student. And so when the bus gets close to their stop, it would give them a notification saying it's nearby. Something to be aware of for our district is there will be some blind spots out in the rural areas where there's not good cell service. It does rely on cell signals but for a majority of our parents, I think that'll be a really big enhancement. And I know Molalla Elementary will be the pilot for that. So also right after the break. So we're really working on a lot of communication systems, but we have to communicate and get people enrolled in those and get the apps downloaded. And I know you guys, do the authentication, like there's a process with that. So there is some teaching and making sure we're really clear and helping parents get on those tools and making sure our staff can use them effectively. So those are kind of some of the big things that have been taking up a good chunk of my time with you, but I'm happy to be here and happy to take any questions anybody has.
So there's promotion for student satisfaction surveys.
Yeah, so in trying to get our participation in those parent and student surveys, we did some social media, we did videos, we did a little promotion to try to get people interested in completing those. And Studer has said that what happens is you have to go through a few cycles where people see that the input that they give is actually used before they want to take it. So your first couple are kind of skewed to maybe people who are a little unhappy.
Oh, yeah.
But eventually people start seeing, wait, this really is a place for me to say what my ideas are or how to make things better. And so it's part of that cycle, but we tried to help support the school's efforts in getting people to complete that survey in the window that they had to do that. So messaging them, text messaging them, yeah. And I think now I have a good list with you all on it. And so when we send stuff out to parents or community, you're getting a copy of it in your email. See, yeah, we've been doing bond updates, parent updates. We need to get the monthly staffs back on track, but again, we just try to use our time as best, we can and prioritize.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep. Any other questions? All right, I'll see you in 2025.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Mr. Tiano with our facilities and deferred maintenance report.
And Chair McNeil, directors, Mr. Tiano had felt better that he wasn't able to be here tonight, so I'll be glad to take any questions, get them back to him and get you answers later, but he's not able to be here this evening.
What I can see on this, he's got a lot of huge projects going on with the roof and everything else, and the boiler cleaning. Does he have more help, I hope?
We have a dedicated groundskeeper that has come on board that's really added some value. Yeah, he's never gonna have enough help, honestly, with,
He needs to clone himself about
Yeah.
6 times.
Right.
Yeah, because it just looks like a lot of extra work here.
Yeah.
For one guy.
of course, he does have his team, right? He does have a team. It's not just him in the
How many
department.
does he have on?
He's got 4 total in the department that are serving facilities and grounds. In addition to the custodians that are in the school buildings.
In middle school, thank God it's gonna be built. Because that's the one that takes the most time, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions, comments?
Can you remind me, I know we have a constraining roadmap plan. At what point in our calendar can we get an update on that?
So that first part again.
There's a facilities roadmap based on the constrained plan that shows here's our roadmap for facilities for the next couple of years. I believe I saw one within the last year.
Yeah.
Do you have a projection of when we can see an update to that?
Yeah, so that's part of our scorecard that we'll report to the board at your January work session. So
beautiful.
we have milestones, both in facilities and academics and human resources and community satisfaction. That's part of that report that we'll bring to you in January.
Well, that is great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Hey, Tony. We have Mr. Campbell with his financial review. Hello.
Good evening. When I started making my notes this morning, I put on the very top of the page, I'm like, quick update. But then as I started making notes throughout the day and then again tonight, I'm like, maybe this is more of a medium update. Just to give you update on the audit, our audit is currently wrapping up. We're in the final stages. We are on track for a timely submission to the ODE. Everything looked good. The ending fund balance was on track with what we thought, so no major adjustments there. We don't have any update on the state school fund estimate yet. We're hoping for a January update. They could surprise us with a December update, but it's getting kind of late. We do not have an update on the PERS impact, although we're continuing to work on that. So it's a slightly big project to make sure we get the numbers correct. So as soon as I have that update, I can share that with you.
Can I ask about that? What percentage of salary is PERS now? At the district base?
So currently, because of our PERS bonds, the district doesn't contribute anything to PERS other than paying on the school bond, the PERS bond debt.
And what percentage of the bond debt has, like, if you had to give it a weighting? Is it 10% of salary, 20% of salary based on the bond debt?
I would say probably
Isn't our total benefit
about
load like 55%?
about 10%.
10%?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's gonna be increasing in 25, 26 to an additional 5%. Roughly.
Okay.
We'll know more. The estimate of revenue membership kind of kicks off the budget season for the finance office. That's due in January. So to Tony's point on the enrollment analysis, I'm currently doing the enrollment roll forward for 25, 26. So as soon as that's completed, we'll have a pretty good picture of what the buildings will look like when we submit that in January. So we'll be able to share that at your January meeting. Tony passed out a middle school project budget and financial summary that was shared at the Bond Oversight Committee at our last meeting. That will give you an overview of the total project summary as well as the financial update with actuals and encumbrances, very similar to the financial update you receive from me every month for the general fund. So I'm happy to answer any questions tonight. I want to give you time to review it. So if you do have any questions, you can send those to Lori. We'll be able to get answered to you. Those will be updated monthly at the Bond Oversight Committee. Depending on the cadence of our meetings, sometimes you'll get the report before they do. But they are updated weekly. So if at any point you need an updated project budget, we're happy to share that with you.
So is this on our bond website as well for the public to see, or?
Yes, I think Andrea,
Okay.
That's the one thing I haven't added.
Not yet.
All of the documents that are on there.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, I haven't like made it like an article of really prominent. You want to make sure you always get it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Well, just want to be clear, as I started to read this, I kind of got really confused as to, what the shading was for in each of the rows. I thought, well, is that a total? Well, if those are totals, these things aren't adding up. So it seems to me that we're kind of reading in Arabic here or something. We're going from bottom to top. Is that correct?
Yeah, so
Instead of
the,
top to bottom.
yep, so the shaded numbers are kind of your main three buckets: construction costs, professional services, and total owner's costs, which matches the financial summary that came along with it.
Okay.
The roll up is, owner contingency, subtotal of construction, and then construction contingency. So as you can see, they roll up to those the main numbers in the shaded boxes.
So our bond levy, whatever the term that I use, was, we were asking the public for some 70 some odd million dollars, right?
Mhm.
And so is this anticipating a cost of that much, or did I see the top is the project total is 95 million? I know we got, in addition to the 70 some million, we got
Yeah.
so, but that's only 8 million though. That doesn't add up to 95 either, so.
But then we got proceeds from.
We got the bond premium that
Okay.
we've discussed before, and then the awesome grant, and then also discussed before was the interest on our investments.
Well, didn't we get a lot of money on the sale of the bonds? We got another $7 or $8 million.
Yeah, that was the bond premium.
I don't see that in here as far as the total. I thought it'd be more than 77 million, but I'm seeing 76,926,667.
Yeah, so if you take a look at this one, the financial summary, yeah, on the third column over, total budget summary,
Oh,
you'll see bond proceeds at 76,926,667. And then you'll see the bond premium at 7,133,055. And then the interest at 5.12 million. And then the awesome grant at 6 million. And so that total of 95,179,772 agrees to the project total cost.
So in answer to my question, though, there should have been a gap between this total 95 and what the expenses were that we were projecting in the beginning when we went out for that bond. Are we saying that we're projecting that those costs are actually going to be considerably higher than that 75 or 77 or 79, whatever it was, million that we originally anticipated? Or what am I missing?
Okay, if I jump in?
Absolutely.
Yeah, the very reasonable questions and questions I would ask myself. And I'm asking, right, as this is a first opportunity for me to learn some of these elements as well. And again, pleased to have really smart, talented people that we've surrounded ourselves with. The bond, $77.6 million. We didn't expect $6 million from Awesome Grant.
Right.
We didn't expect anything from the bond proceeds. $77.6 million was based on the data we had at the time to construct a new middle school to serve 700 students and have 115 square feet. With a tight contingency, but it was within the budget and had some contingency in it. In situations like this, and again, I'll look to others if I miss something here, but in a situation like this, we've got this additional revenue and it provides us an opportunity at no additional expense for the taxpayer to have a contingency that keeps us even more comfortable in being on time and on budget. At the end of the whole process of building a new middle school, if there are dollars that weren't spent to build our new middle school, and I'm really pleased we moved forward with the CMGC process. I think that's the prudent position for us to have taken. If there is revenue that's unspent at that time, the board will have options, right? One option that I've heard the board discuss is, can we pay down the debt early? Can we use some of those unspent dollars to pay down debt? That is an option. Can we use some of those dollars to attend to some of the tier 2 items that the pre-bond advisory group really wanted to see, but it wasn't part of our early planning on the middle school site? There's been some discussion around community desire for the field and track that's part of that same footprint to see some improvements. If we had the dollars, might that be something we do? Again, it might be. Those are all decisions that the board will get a chance to make. And I think the bond advisory, or the bond oversight committee, somebody just asked that laser-like question, which is perfect, right? That's what the community is gonna ask. You got this more money, you know, what does this mean? And hopefully I've described it here in a way that helps you explain it to friends and neighbors. Andrea and the team, we're gonna be working on how to communicate this to the broader public. Again, these are dollars that cost us, but they didn't cost us any more than what we told the voters it was gonna cost, $1.55 per thousand tax assessed value. In fact, when we get into the middle of this and we talk with the bond oversight committee, I don't know if we've shared this with the board, but the way that this is structured, actually, we get to the 26th year in the term, the board deliberated at length. Do we go 30? Do we go 20? Do we go 25 on the term? You decided to stay with the 30. We put the 30-year term out, and yet the way the finances all structure out at the 26th year, the cost per thousand tax assessed value drops from $1.55 to 81 cents. So it'll cost the taxpayer a whole bunch less in years 27, 28, 29, and 30, given the way that this has all been structured. So yeah, again, hopefully I'm giving you information. This is new territory for our district. We have not passed bonds and experienced bond proceeds. We haven't had to explain that, you know, to our friends and neighbors. And I really want you empowered in our communications that go out to have the public trust that, yep, we said we were gonna have a bond for $1.55, and in fact, it's that and less than, because at year 27, it drops to 81 cents. This additional proceeds gives us a proven reserve. And the board will make decisions about where that proven reserve lands at some point in time. If we need some of it for contingency to finish the project as it was designed because of the escalated costs, you know, we may need that. But again, as I said, some of that could go to those tier 2 hope items, right? That track and field, paying down debt. So those decisions are down the road.
So I just want to be clear though, as I look at this, it looks like we're just spending all the money. Where in here are those reserves that you're referring to? That difference between the 77 million and the amount of money we actually raised?
Yeah.
Or are we projecting that it's likely that we're going to spend all of that?
You have 3 buckets of contingency in each one
Okay.
of these.
But they don't add up though. So if I look at the unexpected, the awesome grant and the bond premium should be about 13 mil in contingency. And if I look at the buckets of contingency on the spreadsheet, it looks like 5, 6, maybe 6 mil. And what I'm hearing is that we're going to stick with our original plan with a tight slack of 75 mil for the school, and the rest is contingency. And that's what we've been saying. I think the spreadsheet needs to call that out, unless I'm misreading it.
No, you're right. We've got, so the contingency adds up to about 13 million. So you got at the very top, you've got construction contingency, 5%. And then you have owner contingency in that same bucket of
So that gets 5.8 mil.
Yeah,
Those two
5
together.
Yep, and then you have another 3 million.
Oh, I
in
see it.
Professional contingency,
I see it.
and then 5.4 in total owner's cost contingency.
I missed those other ones, Andy. Thank you.
Okay, so you're saying these right here are not necessarily projected costs. They're just saying, you know, hey, if we overrun, this money is going to be available to use. It's just sort of like the ending fund balance, or the difference between your ending fund balance and your actual expenditures, if you will.
Yep, and
Okay.
It adds up.
And when you get all done with this school, you feel confident we're not gonna spend that contingency.
So what I'm hearing, layman's terms for people that don't understand numbers, we're still shooting for the 77 million, but we've got an $18 million cushion.
I don't know that I can speak to that. I'll say that we're the tax levy that we promised the voters won't be over the $1.55.
Okay.
We were just fortunate to have at the time of the market, you know, the interest that we're gaining on the investments is variable. It would have been probably a little irresponsible to forecast that.
Yeah.
Because of the market. Same thing with the premium. The premium is kind of the same thing. We wouldn't have included that in initial estimates. The Austin grant was a reward, so you know, it's like we were given a gift and now we're,
Yeah,
you know,
That was nice.
so we have a little bit extra money we can spend if we need it.
I just hate to think that the only reason that we're gonna spend it is just because we got it.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly if we need it, then that's fine, but.
I think that matches the sort of the flavor of our community, right? We're not wasteful, we're prudent,
Yeah.
and I appreciate the conversation we're having. By teasing that out, I think now the bond premium and the Austin grant revenue, you're seeing where that is accounted for, right? So, good.
and we would need to account for it, because even if we do or do not spend it, it has to be spent on the middle school project. So we would need to report the full amount of the revenue, and that's what you'll see in the adopted budget. Coming next year, you'll see this, you know, close to this 95. We won't, obviously with the adopted budget, we won't have all the interest in yet. So and that's what you see.
Is there a timeline that you have to spend the proceeds and the Austin grant on the middle school? Is there a timeline? Or is there like a deadline where you have to spend it all, or can it,
For the Awesome grant,
yeah,
it just has to be spent by the end of the project.
by the end of the
Yeah.
project?
Yeah.
And then the proceeds is basically up to the district,
I have a question.
or the premium, sorry.
Premium.
So you're finished with the school, can you go ahead and take what extra money you have and pay off some extra interest so that you have a lower rate? That the people have to pay for, I mean, can they go down lower than $1.55 that we're charging them for 1,000?
No, it would essentially shorten the time, because we have, you know, bond debt payments that we pay every year, and those are already set.
Okay,
So it would just be cutting down that final levy
the
number.
number of years.
Yeah.
We have to pay, okay.
And then I would encourage you guys to go to the bond oversight committee meetings.
When is that?
I know Terry and I have been to 2 or 3. It's once a month for the next 2 months, right?
The
January 7th.
Okay, January 7th is the next one. And they're typically at the middle school. They're gonna.
Yeah.
So it's good to know, you know, some of this even before we have it here, so.
If I can get that.
And then you get to meet everybody that's on the committee as well, so.
Yeah, and if there's a big update, I'll do my best to get it to the work session. But sometimes, because the project's moving so fast, the time between the work session and the bond oversight committee, a lot of activity happens. So that's why this report's delayed.
And one of our bond oversight committee co-chairs, John Meyer, has been a regular attendee at your board meetings, and he's here tonight. Appreciate his service.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
One last,
Yeah.
Thank you.
by chance, are you familiar with the root cause of what happened with the Jewel School District and their $2 million accounting error? That stuff always, I see those things, it always worries me that, I know we're in good shape, but. Okay,
Yeah, I haven't looked into that one yet, but I will.
okay.
Mark, what
Thank you.
happened at this other school?
And it was an accounting error, and it was a big one, like 2 mil in a fairly small budget, and they basically are gonna get a refund from the Education Service District to cover it, which means they're not getting the CSD services. And I'm just curious how that could happen. It was, apparently their accounting was being done by an outside company, when it came internal, the internal people caught it. But yeah, I'm just. If you can give me a layman's understanding at some
Yeah,
point.
absolutely.
Thank you, Andy.
Hey, thank you.
So, good update.
Thanks, Eddie.
Okay, next up, we have Dr. Atherton with our high school, I'm sorry, I skipped Miss Jackson, sorry. With our teaching and learning report.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Directors.
Good evening.
In your board packet, I have provided an overview of what programs grants fall under the integrated programs. Tonight, I'm going to focus on three things. I'm going to give you integrated programs annual report for last year. That's required by ODE. Talk a little bit about project-based learning, and then also with our literacy grant, the high dosage tutoring. But I'm going to start with our slide for integrated programs.
While we're waiting for that, on the personnel report, I saw several tutors. Is that kind of tied in with this? Okay.
I believe. Yeah. Yes, it is. It's
Okay.
because I'll share, we had a great turnout with the number of staff that wanted to be a tutor.
Oh, okay.
So fabulous. All right, great. Thank you. We'll go to the second piece. Excellent. Okay. So Oregon Department of Education annual report for integrated programs really consists of two narrative questions. So quarterly, we have had to report on all of the integrated programs. So there's these, the different buckets of grants. And so quarterly, we report the budget, what we're spending the money on, what our goals are, as well as what actions we use to fulfill the goals for each of those grants. So for the annual report, it's basically two narrative questions. So the next slide really kind of goes over what we're talking about with integrated programs. So we're talking about our student investment account, SIA, the high school success, early literacy, career and technical support, as well as early indicator and intervention systems. And those were all kind of described in your packet. And so one of the very first questions that is asked is, tell us a little bit about some of the progress with these integrated programs, as well as discuss at least one outcome. So throughout the year, I've been focusing on all different areas, but just to kind of, for brevity, just wanted to kind of focus on a couple of things. And so one of the things that I think we're doing really well with and progressing with is our student engagement, culture, and relationships. So we've taken a lot of effort over the past year to engage our community. For example, the Studer survey. Traditionally, we have done the Youth Truth Survey, but switched over to the Studer survey, which has really 20 succinct questions that we ask our staff, we ask our students, and we ask our families. And from that information, of course, really focuses on what our actions are, so that we can meet the needs of all those stakeholders and those involved. In addition, the student engagement and culture, we have invested in a K through 12 project-based learning. So our defined learning platform, which it's in our second year, and I'm going to talk a little bit more and update you on how that is being used with our staff and our students. And then the second part of the question is, the implementation of a lot of these things. So again, I really focused on engaging our students, asking questions of them with our survey, as well as our community. The second question they ask, and again, those are just kind of highlights. I have a much longer narrative that I included in your report. The second question was, what have you experienced in terms of challenge, barriers, or impediments to progressing on a lot of these goals? And really, an ongoing challenge is really to continue identifying some of those barriers that disconnect students from their educational goals, engagement, and also attendance. And that's something that each of our buildings, as well as our directors, work on to help and develop. And again, our surveys help understand what those those needs are for our students that perhaps are not engaged as much as we would like them to be. Also providing, what is another challenge? As I mentioned, teaching and learning provides a lot of professional development. And typically a lot of professional development happens during the school day. So there's workshops and things that happen. But it is become increasingly over the past year and a half difficult to find coverage or substitutes for our staff so that they can go to a workshop. So a lot of the professional development happens during the summer, or we provide it after school. So trying to kind of think outside the box to make sure that our teachers and staff have high quality professional development. And to make sure that they have that opportunity, but that is something that we are continuing to work on and being creative and trying to have subs, high quality subs. So those are the two questions that were covered in the report. I mentioned earlier the project-based learning, the Define Learning platform. This is our second year that this tool is being used with our students, and teachers are embracing it. We actually have a small cohort of teachers that said, you know what, I want to go a little bit deeper with this platform, and I want to be considered kind of an expert. And so we, a couple of weeks ago, had our group of teachers that, along with the Define Learning coordinators, consultants, did a short professional development. So this is one of 3 professional developments that they will be doing. You're going to dive a little bit deeper and learn a little bit more about the platform as well as define careers. So we're really excited that those teachers have volunteered to take on that leadership role with Defined. And lastly, early literacy high dosage tutoring. So this is the 4th, I guess, crown jewel in the early literacy initiative. If you remember, we have done a lot of professional development with our K-3 teachers as well as IAs. We have 2 literacy coaches. We also did the kindergarten camp in the summer to prepare our kindergartners. And now the 4th piece is the high dosage tutoring. So I'm really happy to report that we have 19 very enthusiastic tutors comprised of our certified and classified staff that are representative of all 4 elementaries, and our high dosage tutoring program has begun. We have about 60 students that are being serviced. And just as a review, high dosage tutoring is 1-to-1 or 1-to-3, so a very small group for each tutor, and happens twice a week for a duration of 10 weeks. So we're really excited to start that program, and it wouldn't have been possible with the enthusiastic tutors that signed up to do that. So. All right, talked a lot. What question do you have?
Thank you for this. Will there be a report out of the integrated programs annual report? I saw the question. I was really intrigued by challenges and barriers. I'd love to see that. What's the timeline for this? And when's the report out for it?
Right, so there should have been the more longer narrative in your packet. If not, I can get that to you.
Oh, is it the report itself is in the?
Our intention was to have had the longer report in there as well. I mean, it was just coming down here that we didn't have the printed copy in here.
So
I believe it is available online through Board Book. There's a hyperlink in this report you can click to get to, but we can print up copies for you as well.
absolutely, we'll get that to you.
Is it possible to give me just a quick summary of what the biggest barriers and challenges are here?
Right, so I did kind of touch upon some key pieces, and one of those was the availability of substitutes was one of the things that I did touch on.
Okay. What about absenteeism, behavior issues? I mean, do any of those kind of bubble up as a major barrier?
Always. I mean, those are all things that are continuing to be, challenges and so
Okay.
it's ongoing.
I'll look at the report. Okay, thank you, Tim.
Okay, what time of day are you doing this tutoring?
Yeah, so it's right after school. So students are, released for the school day. They get about 10-15 minutes to get a little snack, right? Kind of decompress. And then it's about a 30-minute tutoring session. And then there is transportation for those that need buses home.
I know you only have one for high school. So what if you need more for the high school?
So I think what you're referring to is our 19 tutors.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that this is for K-3 students only. So at all 4 of the elementaries, we have tutors, and it just happened to be that we do have a high school student that, and not student, but high school teacher
Yeah.
that said, hey, I would like to be trained.
Yeah.
And I would like to be a tutor.
Okay, so you have to have a high school teacher to volunteer to.
Well, it was open to anybody that, any of our staff that wanted to be trained in structured literacy. And then would be a tutor.
It'd be nice to have more for high school, and I'm sure there's some struggling high school students who could stand some tutoring.
I see what you're
And
saying,
one wouldn't be enough.
right? Well, with the early literacy grant,
Yeah.
this is primarily being used for our K-3 students.
If I may, I appreciate, the report that Director Jackson has shared with you. I just want to emphasize or highlight 2 pieces. This is the idea that school improvement is all arrows point in the same direction is the spirit of our work with students, so that we don't get these pockets of money where we're chasing money and putting together an initiative that isn't necessarily aligned to our district improvement plan. So what I appreciate about her work and the work of the elementary principals on this early literacy grant, for example, is all of that is aligned to our district improvement plan. We'll be bringing to you the data on the scorecard out in January on all of the metrics that we talked about with you several months back with Studer. On the first page too, right? So Tamara referenced the student engagement and Studer survey, right? So this work, we weren't doing additional work to go get this money. We're already doing the work of listening to our stakeholders with that Studer survey. And we're giving ourselves credit for it in this report to the Department of Ed. Am I making sense there?
I think it's wonderful. when
And
you
the
guys-
report tonight might feel separate from the scorecard, and that I totally understand that. But we didn't get a choice. ODE required us to report this to you tonight. And so we brought you an update. And again, I appreciate Tamara's integration of all of these funds, because we're talking about a lot of money that's going to improve outcomes for kids. What I'm really looking forward to is presenting that scorecard to you in January, where we'll get into more of those measurable outcome pieces.
So when you submit your report to ODE, do they just take it and not respond back? Or do they ever give you tips on, oh, this is your challenge? Are you trying this? Are you doing that? Do they give you any tips or any kind of feedback at all?
So sometimes there are questions. They might have questions that what has been submitted or clarifications.
But no, nothing else?
At this point, not yet.
I was just curious.
It's a really good question.
Anybody else? Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Tamara.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have Dr. Atherton.
Yes.
With our high school course proposals, which I am excited about.
Yes.
Hopefully everybody had a chance. Look at those.
Ready to dig in.
Board Chair, Directors, thank you. This is pretty exciting time to be here because it's kind of the first steps in an unveiling of something larger that we're going to be coming back to you in the future with some more things. And really, I think what we're doing tonight is this is kind of establishing some of these purposeful learning experiences. They're really going to be solidify the question that a lot of kids ask at school. When am I ever going to use this? And so with our mission, we want students to be able to aspire to their futures, reach those dreams, get to that point. And I think these are going to, some of the things we'll share here with you tonight are the first steps to that. So, you know, as we look at this, I don't think that we're going to go through and read every one, though my colleagues in the audience were really looking forward to that opportunity that we could go line by line. I think if we can kind of move through these and then answer the questions as pertinent to each one, I'll give you a little overview of kind of where we're going. I'm not sure what order yours are in. So if we start with the computer science, this is really the cybersecurity is just an ad for a course that already exists. So it will be taught at the same time, so students can retake it. Students are already retaking it for credit. This will now be a transcripted course for cybersecurity, and we'll begin to look in the future at added additional courses and even up to perhaps being able to create a career technical education program of study. Has to be 3 credits. So quite possible that we could be moving that and looking at then adding in actual industry certification with some of those pieces. So more to come on that, but obviously computers are here to stay. I don't think they're going away. The second kind of 3, they're all grouped together, really is the advanced construction A and B. In the past, 3 years ago, we had 1 teacher who was responsible for both the welding side of the shop and the wood shop. We've been since able to expand that out, and we have one of the best welding teachers in the state, hands down. I'll talk about that in a minute. And we have a full-time construction teacher, and we've been working through that now where we have these classes. When we add this in, students will meet that program completers with 3 complete or 3 classes there. These 2 classes, the A will get into the residential construction piece with the roofing and the framing. And then the B section of that will have the electrical and the plumbing aspects. So we're working with local contractors as well to build a advisory committee. We've had donations from RSG. They donated all the wood for all of our projects this year, and there's some really exciting community involvement there that we're pretty excited about. The internship then, special projects is that next step where we want to start setting up that students who finish that pathway, that we can start looking their either their junior or their senior year, where we can get them out onto job sites, have that work-based learning, start working in kind of modified apprenticeship roles. And advancing their ability to be career ready as soon as they graduate. So we're really excited about those options there. The welding is probably the one that we're doing a little tap dance around. Our welding teacher has been just working her tail off with Clackamas Community College. She's been taking classes, and next year when we add this blueprint reading for electrical and the intro to communication, all of her classes will be articulated. And by the end of next year, we could have our first students who complete her program and have the initial welding certificate from Clackamas Community College at the same time. And I believe we're the only school around here doing that. So we're pretty excited about that piece. The other one that has been really, Tony and I have been working on a kind of local consortium here with Clackamas community and other local schools. We're really, I think, kind of in the lead with the trailblazing on this one. And we're bringing in an intro to health sciences course next year. And that's been, I think, something we haven't, the health sciences hasn't been something we've had clearly articulated. And as Dr. Kyle, who is a molecular biologist by trade, will be teaching that class for us, has experience with health sciences. And then we will begin to develop that out with our anatomy, physiology, forensics, bringing really dialing in that piece and connecting over into our health classes where we want to look at athletic training and other options there as part of that as well. So we're pretty excited about that emerging pathway too. The financial literacy economics course, really what that is a new graduation requirement from the state for the class, this year's freshman class of 2028. So there's a 0.5 credit that is required for graduation. Several years ago, the economics course was added in, and so we actually have, most high schools require 3 credits of graduation for social studies. We added economics to really cover those standards that weren't being taught. And the way that class is laid out, Grant Balstead has been teaching, was involved in developing that as well as teaching it. And last year, his experiences in teaching, he taught financial literacy at a local high school, and he's crosswalked that this year. So the students are going to be getting both the, how do I do this on a budget? How do I look at buying a house? What does, saving money look like? As well as what that impact is on a macroeconomics level. So that's going to be a pretty pertinent class, as well as cover all those standards as well. So there's no new FTE add, whereas a lot of schools, I think, are going to be in a situation where they're students would be either reducing an elective offering or having to make some choices in teachers. But we're uniquely positioned to have success with that as well. The final one here is probably our boldest move, and I think this is something that we've been talking around, and we're really looking forward to your support with us and excitement as we start moving forward into something. As a language arts teacher, I value literature, and I see that and the use of that through a different lens. A lot of our high school seniors don't share that excitement for some of our literature. Shakespeare, in the spring of your senior year, it's not always the most exciting thing. And we've seen an increased failing and repeat rate with that course, that it's not there, it's not speaking to them. And so what we have done is redesigned our senior English course for several pathways. We have our college prep writing that students can get the writing 121, and we're working on it. There's another one in there so they can get dual credit, I think it's up to like 6 credits now. And so if they are on a college prep track, they have that opportunity. The other one that we're looking in then is the first trimester of senior English will hit all of those state standards in literature, language, speaking and listening and writing, pertinent to the literature side of it. This course, we want to offer students another alternative, and it's really career communication. And it's geared towards technical professional writing, that students will walk out of the job, or walk out of high school and into a job. And last time I checked, there wasn't a lot of literature sitting around in most break rooms. So I think when we're looking at this in terms of contracts, in terms of developing print copy, that a student would walk out understanding how to put together a brochure, how to target an audience, to create an entrepreneur opportunity, and go out and do this themselves. So we are working with Defined Learning on this, which I know you guys have heard about. They're really excited about this as well. And so the project-based learning aspect of this that students who are in this class will be grouped together by their career area of interest. And so it could be groups of 2 to 4 students. And then through defined learning, they would have opportunities to actually develop writing specific to the career area that they're considering exploring. So it could be developing a safety manual for a shop. It could be developing a staff handbook for a school. Any number of different things that would be practical application for students of something that they could graduate, go into a position and actually have to either read, write, or respond to. So that's a quick kind of overview of everything. I'm sure that you guys read through every little line there and would like to talk about all of those. So if you do have any questions, I'll do my best to answer those.
Question. Well, first of all, comment. I love to see construction coming back.
Yeah.
Before what you were talking about, once upon a time, this school district used to have a construction class where they would literally build a house on a lot, sell the house, make money from the sale of the house to keep funding the construction of more houses. And it was sad to see that go.
The house that I grew up in was built by the high school.
So it's, you know,
The
I don't know
apartment
if
I
you'll,
live in now was too.
I don't know if you'll get to that point. Certainly not with this, but you know, if that's something great to think of in the future. The question I had was when I was looking through that advanced construction AB and internship, the requirements it talked about were the intermediate woodworking.
Mhm.
Does that mean that those courses can be taken in any order? You could take B before A, or internship before B, or you know, something like that, or do they have to be taken in order?
No, there is more flexibility there. And I think there's a piece too that we want to offer students some choice. That there might be a student who's like, I don't want to be anywhere near electricity. Personally, I have an aversion to plumbing. It might be being 6'1". Plumbing is usually lower to the ground. So I think we want students to be able to have choice of where they see they're going. And so maybe they're just in the framing of the roofing, or maybe that advanced piece is really, they might have one of them and then they find their love and they're, hey, I want to, you know, one of the things we're looking at for those experience of building, how do we rebuild the soccer sheds, you know, out there? They need some love. They're saggy. But that's walls, that's roofs, all of those things.
Sure.
So that could be several students could make that their special project, get the credit for that. It's work-based learning. You can create a portfolio of evidence of what you've done then.
One other question I had, do we have an auto shop program at all anymore?
We do not.
Okay, is that something that's gonna be looked at? Because I mean, that was something like when I was in high school that was, you know, really big, so.
Yeah. Extremely expensive. You know, I mean, we would need space, we would need, you know, a lot of things there.
Yeah,
We have been.
there used to be a really nice shop up there. I know
Yeah.
I was in it, but it got taken over, but
Yeah, I know we've had some conversations about looking down the lines of how we might partner with other schools. How we could, you know, create some opportunities, connect with CCC, you know, and bring some of those, because there's something about working on your own vehicle that kind of brings some of our kids into school. So small engines at a minimum, maybe. So I think exploring some of those options as we grow that out, as a student interest comes, community interest and you know, corporate interest, and hey, we need these workers.
it was a
things
very
begin to come
popular
together.
class when I was in school,
Yeah.
so.
If I may, the work that David has done here with his staff to envision a relevance in the curriculum is really, I appreciate his leadership, the work of the staff coming together around it. Really, we're seeing this as spreading some students for a larger, more bold vision. We heard David talk about
Later on.
vision.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome.
the work we've done with defined learning at the elementary level, career-related learning, some early online apprenticeships. I'll also share with the board, I think I did this in a written update, that together with the Estacada School District, we've visited a couple different leading exemplars in the country. One of them happens to be in Salem, the Salem CTEC Center. The other we visited was in Western Iowa, called Woodbine Ignite. I believe that of those in the country that are leading, Woodbine Ignite is the leader in the country. And we've been having some conversations around how can we create the kind of opportunity that prepares kids for college and gives those kids who might choose not to go to college, but instead enter the workforce a direct pathway into a well-paying position. Director Luke, for example, the relationship that he connected us with in industry resulted in students being hired directly out of Malala High School into the trades because of that business relationship. We believe that business wants to come to the table. We believe that the Estacada School District and the Malala School District can collaborate to do some pretty world-class things in the county. I'm trying to be careful about, I don't want to get too far over my skis. But what I saw board members' heads nodding as David's talking about the career-related elements that are here. I believe we're on the front edge of something bold. I really believe that by 2027, we should be building a house in the county.
Yeah, we should.
And by 2027, our kids ought to have access to a manufacturing pathway that puts them in a six-figure salary right out of high school. That's the kind of future that we believe is possible. We heard our community want when they helped develop the mission and the vision. And I think our kids, if I made a preview to the Studer scorecard data, if we look at the first round of surveys with students answering a question, do I see a relevance to what I'm learning in school beyond the graduation stage? That's not exactly the question, but it's something like that. And we look at the percentage of our students that were answering yes to that last year versus the percentage of our students that answered yes to that this year. We see more students saying, hey, we see a purpose beyond. So I'm babbling here. I don't want to get too far over my skis, but we do hope to come back to the board with some proposals down the road that really move us to a place where more kids can find this kind of success.
Awesome.
It sounds exciting. It sounds.
I have one question. Would you think about business plan, teaching students to write a business plan in case they have some great idea that might make them millionaires and should be able to write a new business plan?
Only if they'll bring 10% back to me. We have that in place. Our business teacher is doing amazing things. I was actually doing an observation in there just yesterday. And, they're learning the different types of businesses. And then once they got the basic ideas, they got down in a group and they had to create a business on the spot. And so they're applying those principles. If you understand that and you begin to learn those process steps, sky's the limit.
One more shout out to Principal Dalton at the middle school, who was also with us in Iowa when we visited Woodbine Ignite. One of the things that we've been intentional about and our community affirmed was the right thing is in the design and construction of our new middle school, really having central to the school career, technical, hands-on related learning that's accessible. It's not out in the back 40 in these early designs. It's the heart of the school. And Mr. Meyer and I have had that conversation about how important it is for the school design to also reflect the trajectory on into high school. So anyway, I'm getting over I don't want to be, but we're going to build schools or we're going to build homes after 2020.
That would be wonderful.
We really should be building a home in 2027.
Well, I love all the different new options coming in. Rude that you're doing it when I'm leaving, since you knew this. So,
That was strategic.
but does this mean that there might become more of an opportunity to have different languages be presented? If the opportunity.
Yes, obviously, as we look at what the graduation requirements are, as well as what students are asking for. If those things become, hey, we see a shift in, we need this language, this business is starting to happen here. I remember when I was coming up through school in the 80s and the 90s, it was Japanese, and all of a sudden everybody had to have a Japanese teacher. And so those opportunities, I think, as they come up in the global and the national economy, we have to be prepared to look for those too.
Estacada superintendent spoke with his board about this same concept last night. So we've got some parallel play going on in some really exceptional districts, I think. Yeah. So if you haven't talked with folks on the Estacada school board, I think they're having the same kind of conversation.
The one thing I just want to add is some people may have heard me say this before. Personal finance
Oh, yeah.
The dumbest thing that our state government ever did was get rid of the personal finance requirements that they had in
Yeah.
high school curriculum back in the 1970s. It's one of those many iterations of changing how we educate our high school students and, the requirements and so forth. They got rid of those. I don't remember which superintendent of public instruction it was. I have a guess, but anyway, and so I learned from my own kids who didn't have any kind of personal finance education in anywhere between K and 12 that they really were at a significant disadvantage. They couldn't balance the checkbook, they couldn't do their own taxes. They had no idea about interests and bank accounts and all that kind of stuff for the most part. And so hopefully those kinds of things rather will be included in this personal finance education. It's a lot easier today, right? Today, you don't have to go down to your post office and get your paper tax form and actually fill it up by hand. You get to just buy something off of Amazon and use that software to do your taxes. But still, I mean, even with that, it's hard to do them.
I think one of the fails there was, yes, cutting the content, but this is where education has changed. And I think we need to adapt to it. Is you can't put something like personal finance or reading or writing and isolate it in one core classroom. If that student isn't looking outside of how that class connects to whatever program they're in, if we have students going in and getting their initial welding license, that's great. But if that student is also not having an introduction to business class, so they understand what a business does, how it operates, and their role as an employee. So if they're creating a bunch of, waste, it's loss of money, which could end up being somebody's job. I think that's our responsibility to make sure that they're learning those pieces and they understand their part in the bigger system. But you can't just put that in a 0.5 class and leave it there. Sure. We've got to bring that out. And our construction teachers are talking about that. They're creating a budget. The students are getting a weekly, hey, if you do this, here's your hours. If you're tardy, then, this is lost money here. If you were absent, that's a lost wage here. What's your budget? And they actually sat down and talked about this in terms of, are you living with a buddy? Are you living alone? And so that's where personal finance begins to start really working, when you're looking at board feet measured in dollars and cents. I think we bring it back alive. And I think that's where some of the things Tony's talking about here, we need to reimagine how we're teaching kids and break some of that mold of the factory model of education.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I want to go back to high school.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, no thanks.
Like I used to elbowing people in the hallways to get to class.
Yeah. Get out of my way.
They're walking slower and slower.
Okay, next up we have student services with Dr. Show.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Directors. I changed the format slightly of my board report. Maybe you noticed, maybe not, but to align better to our current vision and mission and our pillars. The kind of main work, we're doing the work that we do every day, but one of the main things we're doing right now, really important, data collection, is the special education job count. So this is where we basically tell the state how many students we served for this year. We make sure that all of our IEPs are complete in December. And it's also how they make funding decisions too, based on how many students we have identified with a disability. Other than that, we're just kind of humming along. Question.
How many students do we have identified as having a disability? Or what percentage?
On Monday for sure.
Okay.
We think we're up about 30 from last year.
What was it last year?
We're in about in the fours, the low fours last year. And I think now we're probably around 440.
Okay.
But again, I don't know exactly until Monday. But if you wanted a ballpark, that's kind of how many students we have. And that would be K to 21.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No. I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, superintendent's report.
Everything on records, yeah, I think the only piece that I would want to add tonight is the how much happens over time in brief periods of time. The fact that Director Watson said that this is her 12th report to the board was a reminder to me that she's now been with us a year, and in a year, you know, all of the work that's happened that relied on really strategic communication. It's been a really a godsend for the district, so I appreciate Andrea, and I know she doesn't wake up in the morning waiting for kudos like that, but a year.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
We're thankful.
So that's all.
Oh, that's it. Okay. Board comments, starting with Rob.
I have
Nada?
anything tonight.
Well, we're glad to see you back
Thank you.
still.
Yeah.
Terry?
I have one little thing. This is more about my personal life and my future. But I am officially a registered college student. I'm going to University of Oregon, so the Duck School. And I am majoring in psychology while also doing a law internship.
Very nice.
Psychology will come in real handy.
Check out the
It's
other layers.
exciting.
Yeah.
I just want to say, reflecting on what Madison just said a few minutes ago. I've said many times, although not recently, that I'm really excited about getting more foreign languages into our schools. It was disappointing to me when my kids started going to school here, and I discovered that the only language they could take apart from English was Spanish. Not that there's anything wrong with Spanish, it's just that there were no other options. And there are many other languages in this world, many more languages that are more widely spoken, or at least have more speakers. Anyway, I just felt like, it's great to be able to have that option if you want it, but I'd love to see some Chinese, some Russian, Arabic, whatever, just anything other than just English and Spanish.
I'll second that.
Lastly, I just want to say thank y'all to those people who have supported me and provided me these pretty little flowers here. Unfortunately, my stepfather passed away last week, and I appreciate the support I've gotten from people here and elsewhere. Thank you.
I don't really have anything in particular. Just wanted to say proud to be part of this board and in this district that's working so hard for the kids and helping them boost their successfulness. That's a word.
Ditto. Can I just do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well said.
Okay. Meetings, work session next week. We still have one,
To be brief.
a short one.
Yeah.
7 PM, district office. Business meeting, January 9th, 7 PM at the district office, and work session, January 23rd, 7 PM at the district office.
Which, will it be the January 9th or the 23rd when we get the mid-year report?
It'll be the 23rd.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and then really quick, well, I think Lori sent out a message about that training. The 28th. But on the 28th, but,
Are you going to that?
Yeah.
training? And to,
okay,
yeah, and we will sign up with Lori.
okay, we can connect on about that and
Is the
see if we can
ethics training
carpool.
that is required. And what day is that?
For 28th.
From 5:30 to 7:30.
We need for January.
Evening,
It's a Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah, is it 5:30?
Time from 3 to 5.
5:30 to 7:30.
What?
5:30 to 7:30 at Clackamas EST.
Okay.
We can carpool.
And let's do.
All right,
Register. for-
shall we adjourn this meeting?
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm still worried about it. So-
Seemed like I didn't know we had a required ethics
I
training.
think that's the one thing.
Things now.
Nice to have you by my side.
Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't. Know it this time.
One of these days.